He begged her for forgiveness after leaving her and their daughter for her best friend years ago. Dear viewers, welcome to our channel. Subscribe to receive more stories every day. The once vibrant streets of the city seemed foreign to Mark as he shuffled past storefronts. Once a man of power and success, he now wore the weight of years of bad decisions on his shoulders. His suit was rumpled, his shoes scuffed, and his confidence, once his defining trait, was shattered. Every step was a reminder of what he'd lost, and every corner held echoes of a life he'd thrown away. Years earlier, Mark had everything: a beautiful wife, Clara, a bright-eyed daughter, Lily, and a thriving real estate business. But temptation came in the form of Sophia, Clara's best friend. She was bold, adventurous, and everything Clara wasn't, or so Mark convinced himself. Succumbing to Sophia's allure, Mark had torn his family apart, leaving Clara and Lily behind without a second glance. Sophia promised him the world: a partnership in business, a glamorous lifestyle, and love that burned hotter than he'd ever known. For a while it seemed worth it. Together they built an empire, or so Mark thought. Over time, cracks began to form. Sophia was ambitious, yes, but also ruthless. What Mark mistook for passion revealed itself as manipulation. She didn't just want a partner, she wanted control. By the time Mark realized this, it was too late. Sophia siphoned funds from their joint accounts and moved on to a younger, wealthier man, leaving Mark penniless and humiliated. His once thriving business collapsed under the weight of bad deals and unpaid debts. Friends who once admired his boldness now avoided him. The man who had thought he'd traded up was left with nothing. On a particularly cold afternoon, Mark found himself in front of a modest cafe, staring through the window. Inside, families laughed over steaming cups of coffee, their warmth a stark contrast to his isolation. It was here that he spotted Clara for the first time in nearly a decade. She was radiant. The years hadn't dulled her beauty, they'd refined it. Her auburn hair was tied back, and her face, though older, bore a calm confidence he didn't remember. Across from her sat a man, tall and composed, who leaned in as she spoke. Mark's stomach twisted. Was this her new partner? Had she moved on completely? Unable to resist, Mark stepped inside. The warmth hit him instantly, and with it came the memories. The smell of freshly brewed coffee reminded him of lazy Sunday mornings with Clara and Lily. The clinking of cups echoed the laughter of a life he'd abandoned. Clara noticed him almost immediately. Her expression shifted from surprise to something unreadable. The man beside her turned to see what had caught her attention, his eyes narrowing slightly as he took in Mark's disheveled appearance. Mark cleared his throat and approached their table. "Clara," he began, his voice cracking. "It's been a long time." Clara stood slowly, her gaze steady but guarded. "Mark," she replied, her tone even. "I wasn't expecting to see you." The man beside her rose as well, offering a protective presence. Mark hesitated, unsure of how to proceed. "Can we talk?" he asked, glancing between Clara and the man. "Alone?" Clara hesitated, then nodded. "I'll meet you outside," she said, her voice firm. She turned to the man, who gave a subtle nod before sitting back down. Outside, the chill bit at Mark's skin. He rubbed his hands together as Clara joined him. She crossed her arms, her expression unreadable. "What do you want, Mark?" she asked bluntly. I wanted to see you." "To apologize," he began, fumbling for the right words. "I know I hurt you. I know I hurt Lily. And I regret everything." Clara's eyes hardened. "Regret doesn't erase what you did," she said. "You left us. For her. Do you even know what we went through after you walked out?" Mark swallowed hard. "I know I can't undo the past. But I want to make things right." Clara laughed bitterly. "Make things right? Mark, you didn't just leave. You shattered our lives. I had to rebuild from nothing while raising Lily alone." "I know," Mark said quietly. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I want to try. I want to be there for Lily. I want to." "You want to what?" "Walk back into our lives and pretend the last 10 years didn't happen." Clara interrupted. Lily doesn't even know you. The words hit Mark like a blow. She doesn't remember me? She was 4 when you left, Clara said. She's 15 now. And she's had to grow up without a father because of your choices. Mark's heart sank. He hadn't realized just how much time had passed, how much he'd missed. Please, he said, his voice trembling. Let me try. Let me see her. I need to make this right. Clara studied him for a long moment, her expression softening slightly. I'll think about it, she said finally. But this isn't just about you. It's about Lily. If she doesn't want to see you, that's her choice. Mark nodded, clinging to the sliver of hope her words offered. Thank you, he whispered. As Clara walked away, Mark felt the weight of his choices more than ever. He had a long road ahead, but for the first time in years, he felt a glimmer of hope. Mark spent the following days consumed by a mix of hope and anxiety. Clara had agreed to think about his request, but the uncertainty gnawed at him. He walked aimlessly through the city, replaying their conversation in his mind. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to confront the damage he had caused. He remembered Lily's laughter when she was a toddler, the way her tiny hands would grip his finger as she stumbled around the living room. He had been her hero once, the man she ran to when she was scared. But he traded all of that for a fleeting passion with Sophia, who had left him in the same way he'd abandoned his family. Mark didn't know where Clara and Lily lived now, but he made a point to return to the cafe every day, hoping Clara might show up again. On the 5th day, as the afternoon sun dipped low, he saw her through the window. She was alone this time, her face pensive as she sipped a cup of tea. Summoning his courage, he stepped inside. Clara looked up as he approached, her expression guarded but not unkind. Mark gestured to the empty chair across from her. She nodded, and he sat down, fumbling for words. Thank you for letting me talk to you the other day, he began. I know it wasn't easy. Clara set her cup down and leaned back in her chair, her eyes sharp and assessing. I've thought about it, Mark, she said. About what you said. And I've spoken to Lily. Mark's heart leapt. You did? What did she say? Clara hesitated, her gaze dropping to her hands. She said she doesn't remember much about you. She remembers me crying a lot when you left, and she remembers feeling confused. But she doesn't hold any anger toward you. I think it's because you've been more of an idea to her than a real person. The word stung, but Mark nodded. I understand. I know I need to earn her trust, to show her that I'm not the same man I was. Clara looked at him, her expression unreadable. She's agreed to meet you. But I need to be clear about something, Mark. This isn't about giving you a second chance at fatherhood. This is about Lily. If she decides she doesn't want you in her life, I won't push her. I wouldn't expect you to, Mark said earnestly. Thank you, Clara. I'll do whatever it takes. Clara nodded and slid a piece of paper across the table. This is where we'll meet tomorrow. Don't be late. The next morning, Mark arrived at the small park Clara had indicated. His nerves were frayed, his palms clammy. He sat on a bench near the playground, watching children run and laugh, their parents nearby. The sight brought a lump to his throat. This was what he had missed, years of moments like these. When Clara arrived with Lily, Mark's breath caught. His daughter was taller than he had imagined, her chestnut hair pulled back in a ponytail, her features a blend of his and Clara's. She walked with a quiet confidence, her gaze curious but cautious. Hi, Mark said, standing as they approached. You must be Lily. Lily glanced at her mother, who gave her an encouraging nod, before looking back at Mark. Hi, she said simply. They sat together on the bench, an awkward silence settling over them. Clara stayed a short distance away, giving them space but remaining within sight. Mark fumbled for words, unsure how to begin. I've wanted to meet you for a long time, he said finally. I know I've missed a lot and I'm so sorry for that. But I'm here now, and I'd really like to get to know you if you'll let me. Lily studied him, her expression thoughtful. "Why did you leave?" she asked, her voice quiet but steady. The question hit Mark like a punch to the gut. He looked down at his hands, ashamed. "I was selfish," he admitted. "I thought I wanted something else, something better. But I was wrong. I hurt you and your mom, and I've regretted it every day since." Lily didn't respond right away. She picked at the hem of her sweater, her gaze distant. "Mom doesn't talk about you much," she said. "She just said you left because you thought we weren't enough." Mark felt tears prick his eyes. "You were more than enough," he said hoarsely. "I was the one who wasn't enough. I didn't see what I had until it was gone." Lily looked at him then, her eyes searching his face. "Are you going to leave again?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "No," Mark said firmly. "Never again. If you let me, I'll be here for you. Always." Lily nodded slowly, her expression softening. "Okay," she said quietly. "But it's going to take time." "I understand," Mark said. "I'll do whatever it takes." They spent the next hour talking, with Mark sharing stories about Lily as a baby and asking her about her interests and dreams. Slowly, the tension began to ease, and by the time they parted, Mark felt a fragile but real connection forming. Clara approached as Lily walked ahead toward the car. "You did well," she said, her tone neutral but not unkind. "Don't screw it up." "I won't," Mark promised. As he watched Clara and Lily drive away, he felt a glimmer of hope. It was a start, one he didn't deserve but one he would fight to keep. Mark threw himself into rebuilding the fragile connection with Lily, determined not to squander the chance he had been given. He started small, meeting her for short visits in public spaces, respecting her boundaries, and letting her dictate the pace of their relationship. Each interaction was a mix of awkwardness and cautious curiosity, but he cherished every moment. Lily's guarded demeanor slowly began to soften. She shared snippets about her life, her love of drawing, her dreams of becoming an architect, and her favorite books. Mark listened intently, soaking in every detail. He often wondered how much of her personality was shaped in his absence and how much he had missed. Despite his efforts, he couldn't shake the feeling that Clara remained skeptical. She accompanied Lily to most meetings, her protective instincts evident in the way she watched him interact with their daughter. Mark didn't blame her. He had given her every reason to doubt his intentions, and it would take more than words to prove he was serious. One afternoon, while Lily was at a friend's house, Mark asked Clara if they could talk privately. They met at a park bench overlooking a small lake, the autumn leaves casting golden reflections on the water. "I want to thank you," Mark began, his voice earnest, "for giving me a chance to be in Lily's life. I know I don't deserve it." Clara folded her arms, her expression unreadable. "You're right. Don't. But Lily deserves the chance to know her father." "That's the only reason I agreed." Mark nodded. "I understand. And I want to do more. I want to help support her. Financially, emotionally, however I can." Clara raised an eyebrow. "And how exactly do you plan to do that? From what I hear, you're not exactly in a position to offer much." The comment stung, but Mark couldn't argue. His financial situation was dire. After Sophia's betrayal and the collapse of his business, he had been reduced to taking odd jobs just to get by. The money he made barely covered his own needs, let alone what Lily might require. "I'll find a way," he said, his tone resolute. "I'll work harder, save more. Whatever it takes." Clara sighed, her gaze softening slightly. "You can't just throw money at this, Mark. Being a father isn't about writing checks. It's about showing up, being consistent, and proving that you're here for the long haul." "I know," Mark said quietly. "And I will. For her and for you." Clara gave him a long, searching look. "We'll see," she said finally. Actions speak louder than words. Over the next few weeks, Mark dedicated himself to turning his life around. He took on more stable work, enrolling in a vocational training program to learn a trade. He also started volunteering at a local youth center, helping kids from broken homes, an experience that deepened his understanding of what Lily might have gone through in his absence. During one of their visits, Lily invited Mark to her school's art exhibition. She had a piece on display, and her excitement was palpable. Mark accepted the invitation with a mixture of pride and nerves. He hadn't attended any of her milestones before, and the thought of being there now felt both thrilling and intimidating. The night of the exhibition, Mark arrived early, dressed in his best suit, a modest but respectable one he had purchased after his first few paychecks from his new job. The school gymnasium buzzed with activity as parents and students mingled, admiring the artwork. Mark spotted Clara and Lily near a display board and made his way over. "Hey Lily," he said, his voice warm. "This is amazing." Lily beamed, her cheeks flushing with pride. "Thanks. My piece is over here. Come see." She led him to a large canvas depicting a whimsical cityscape, its buildings bending and twisting in surreal shapes. The detail was incredible, and Mark was blown away by her talent. "This is incredible," he said, genuinely impressed. "You've got a real gift." Lily smiled shyly. "Thanks. I want to design buildings like this someday. Buildings that make people feel happy." "You will," Mark said, his voice filled with conviction. "I have no doubt." As the evening progressed, Mark noticed other parents glancing in their direction, some whispering among themselves. At first, he thought he was imagining it, but Clara's stiff posture confirmed that she had noticed too. He caught snippets of conversation, mentions of his name, murmurs about his past. It seemed that not everyone had forgotten the scandal surrounding his departure all those years ago. One man, a former business associate of Mark's, approached Clara with a smug expression. "Didn't expect to see you here with him," he said, his tone dripping with condescension. "I thought you'd have more self-respect." Clara bristled, but before she could respond, Mark stepped forward. "Leave her out of this," he said firmly. "This is about supporting Lily, not rehashing the past." The man snorted. "Support? That's rich coming from you." Mark met his gaze, his voice steady. "You made mistakes, big ones, but I'm here now, trying to make up for them. You can judge me all you want, but it won't change the fact that I'm doing everything I can to be a better man." The man scoffed and walked away, leaving Mark feeling exposed but resolute. Clara placed a hand on his arm, her expression unreadable. "That was unexpected," she said softly. "I meant what I said," Mark replied. "I'm not the same person I was." As they watched Lily interact with her friends, laughing and carefree, Mark felt a profound sense of gratitude. He still had a long way to go, but for the first time in years, he believed in the possibility of redemption, not just for himself, but for the family he had nearly destroyed. Dear viewers, thank you for watching. If you like this story, please subscribe to our channel to receive more stories every day. Share with us what you think of this story and tell us where you're watching from.